serious, it's fun, it's your Catholic drive time.
With Joe McClain and Emily Alvarez.
The LGBTQ agenda, the attack on the families, all of that. So praise be to God. But he also has a book out called Under Siege, No Finer Time to Be a Faithful Catholic, published by Sophia Institute Press. It seems like the eternal optimist here. Good morning to you, Austin Ruse. Thank you for being a part of our show.
I'm happy to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Praise be to God. Just fair warning, you're totally surrounded by pessimists.
Good.
All right. Well, actually, no, I'm the only pessimist on the team. But at any rate, we caught some interviews you did about your book. We're very excited about your book. And let's start with your work, though, at CFAM. Let's start there, because I think that's a great foundation for talking about the opportunity that you seem to be suggesting we have as Catholics today. What do you do at CFAM, and why do you do it?
Our primary work at CFAM is to assist UN delegations in negotiating documents, either hard law or soft law documents. Our goal is to prevent an international right to abortion through UN documents, to prevent the family from being redefined through UN documents, to prevent sexual orientation and gender identity from becoming a new category of non-discrimination in international law.
CFAM has been working since the summer of 1997 to stop an international right to abortion at the UN, to stop the family from being redefined in UN documents, to stop sexual orientation and gender identity from becoming a new category of non-discrimination in international law. And we've been quite successful in that, basically being able to find the requisite number of UN delegations who will stand with us and against the sexual radicalism of the elites that run the UN. So that's our primary work, A, and B is telling folks like you what really goes on at the UN. So that in a nutshell is what we do.
I think most of us knuckle draggers probably just think that everybody at the UN is absolutely out of their mind with a one world government type of agenda. What is the truth in there?
Well, there's certainly plenty of that, among the elites, among the people who run the UN, among those in the, who run the big agencies, UNICEF, UN Women, WHO, UNFPA, the alphabet soup of wickedness. They certainly are looking for something like that. They call it global governance, which is very much the same thing. But there are one of the hot debates that happens in almost every UN debate is over national sovereignty. So there's national sovereignty language in almost every UN document. And certain countries, Africa, the Middle East, Latin America, Caribbean, fight like the dickens to maintain national sovereignty language because they ultimately want to decide these things by themselves. That is to say, separate from global governance, separate from one world government.
So what do they think about you? You and your team, obviously, you're not alone. You have a team of fighters doing all of this work. What do they think about you? What is their thoughts when they encounter the team from CFAM?
Well, our friends love us and our enemies hate us. When my guys walk in the door, you can feel, the air go right out. Oh, it's those guys from CFAM. Oh. we hate those guys. But then our friends are quite happy to see us, and we have very close relationships with a few dozen delegations. It's a shifting number and shifting players over the years. But we have an enormous amount of institutional knowledge. Everybody on my team has been with us for at least 10 years.
Wow.
So there's a remarkable amount of institutional knowledge. So when a piece of language comes up, we can say, that was proposed back in 1998 and it was rejected by the entire negotiating body. We might not want to use that again. And that's the kind of ammunition that is required to take language out of documents, just to remind that this is not agreed upon language. This has consistently been rejected, and new people don't necessarily know that. So we provide institutional knowledge.
You probably have to work with nefarious characters from all over the planet, people who don't share our ideals as Catholics. What is that like in your work?
early on, when I first started doing this back in the 90s, a Filipino diplomat who's now quite a big deal. He was just a regular staffer, then he's now Philippine ambassador to New Zealand. Jesus Domingo. He said, "You want to come and meet the Iranians?" And I'm going, "Can I meet the Iranians? Can I?" And he says, the UN is a Rubik's Cube. And where countries stand on various issues shifts, and they may be hostile to the United States, but quite honestly, we're not at the UN as an organization to represent the United States. We're there to represent the unborn child of the family. And so we have made common cause on life and family issues with the Iranians, who've been quite good.
We were just having a hot and contested debate off of air whether or not you're a true optimist or just an Irish optimist. We weren't 100% sure. Because
I don't even know what that is.
Well, Adrian has a joke.
Yes,
he'll tell you.
I was told in high school by a professor, a teacher I had, an Irish pessimist always will tell you things can't get much worse, and an Irish optimist will say, "Oh, yes, they can." Well,
because we were trying to wrap our head around your book. And, as I said earlier, we were talking to Eric Sammons about even just the stats on churchgoers, which includes synagogues and mosques, too, by the way, in those stats. And we're, as a country, under 50% for the first time. And yet we see scandal after scandal in the church. We see crazy scandals going on in society itself at large. Where we seem to be embracing abortion politics, LGBTQ agendas, and so much more as a body of faithful, and yet you have this book that comes out that says it's no finer time to be a Catholic. Is this? I mean, are you just love the fight, or what's going on here, Austin? Tell us about this.
The enemy has us surrounded, and the bastards are just where we want them.
Exactly. I was going to say that. You beat me to it. Well, praise be to God. All right,
Can I say that on Catholic?
Yeah.
Radio?
Well, it's too late now. We need to get that dump button installed. All right. So what is your motivation here? What are you trying to tell us?
Well, these are among the most desperate times the church and society has ever faced, and the good Lord knew that these times were coming. And who did He send? He sent the likes of us. How absurd is that?
Yes, very.
I like to say that the apostles weren't exactly the A team. They didn't go to the Harvard of their time, and they didn't work it to the Google of their time, and neither do we. And look what they did. He knows what He's about. He sent us. And my view is that we must be. We are remarkably blessed that He sent us at this desperate time to fight His fight for creation. The early church was privileged to fight about who was Jesus Christ. The later church was privileged to have this huge debate about what is the church. And what are we fighting about these days? We are fighting about what is the human person. That is remarkable that lame people like us get to participate in this particular debate. And with regard to the contraction of the church, I wrote a column now a couple of years ago. There's a writer at Pathos named Melinda Selmas who identifies herself as queer, and she left the church. Damon Linker, who was writing at the time for the Week, also formally left the church, and on their way out said, well, we never really believed in a lot of what the church taught. I say, they are honest apostates, and it's a good thing that they're leaving. And I think that that's the case with a lot of people. We don't necessarily want a lot of people who are merely questioning to leave, but those who disagree with the teachings of the church yet stay are a kind of poison that is dripping into the ear of the church. So, on the other hand, I see Orthodox religious orders bursting at the seams. I see, when I was converting in the late 80s, I didn't know what to read, and my Catholic friends didn't know what I should read because they were badly catechized. I eventually discovered Ignatius Press. Thank you, Father Fessio. And now we have a revived 10 books. We have St. Benedict. We have my friend John Reese in Brooklyn, started Angelico Press. We have Sophia Institute Press. We have now Crisis Publications. We have new imprints, Clooney Publishing, publishing old and classic Catholic books. We see Catholic radio explode exploding, hundreds of stations and programs just like your own. So, you look around and you can see remarkable good news. And a big part of the book is a discussion about how we are living through this remarkable time. We live in a time of great saints and spiritual giants, for instance. So I look around, I see the same things you do, but I see it with a little bit different eyes, and mostly by the fact that he sent me to help him.
We're talking to Austin Ruse about his book, Under Siege, No Finer Time to Be a Faithful Catholic, published by Sophia Institute Press. You mentioned something a minute ago that I've been thinking about quite a while now, and that's about the people who do not espouse the teaching of the church tend to stay in the church rather than leave. And I've always found that interesting. I've always felt like, why? The German, at least a portion of the German bishops seem very hell-bent, so to speak, on espousing these non-Catholic ideals. Well, that body already exists. It's called the Anglicans. Why not just go and join their community rather than stay? Why do you suppose so many that don't believe in what the church teaches want to stay here?
Well, with regard to the German bishops, they rake in billions of dollars in taxes, and so they're fat and happy. For the regular people in the chanceries and the rectories and things like that, this is where, we used to say these are where the mimeograph machines are. They have the equipment to do their work. On the other hand, I think that they truly believe that the teachings of the church can change, and that would be a good thing and a better thing. We see these changes that came about in the Anglican Church, for instance, and we see the implosion of the Anglican Church. So, why do they stay? I think they stay for a whole lot of reasons. But I salute those, as I said, I called it the honest apostasy of Melinda Selmas and Damon Linker, and I say hats off to them for having the courage to walk away from something they really didn't believe in.
I know you've talked about this in other podcasts and shows and whatnot, and it's about the sort of the supposed opposition to evangelization versus political lobbying, within the church. I've always been of the feeling that if we pursue the salvation of souls, the evangelization of peoples, laws don't matter as much. People won't abort their kids if we've convinced them to the dignity of human life, or they'll solidify their marriages if we convince them of the church's teaching the dignity of matrimony, et cetera, et cetera. But I know you have an interesting opinion on that, and I'd like you to share that with us.
Well, Andrew Breitbart used to say that politics is downstream from culture. And I don't think he believed that, because he was very politically engaged. But culture is actually also downstream from politics. And a big part of the book is where I talk about the rise of the new state church. I believe we have an established church now. It's certainly not ours. We are the heretics that the established church is going after. From the beginning of the founding of the United States, there was a healthy debate between what people call the providentialists, that is to say, those who see the hand of God in history, and that this must be explained to our children, even in schools. And then the seculars, who believe that the government cannot have anything to do with religion. This was not a settled debate. Sometimes the providentialists won, sometimes the seculars won, almost like political parties down through the ages. In 1962, the Supreme Court decided the school prayer decision. The key part of that decision was where the Supreme Court put its thumb on the scale of that debate and said that the object and purpose of government must be secular, that is to say, without God. From that moment on was the beginning of an official state church. Following shortly after that came the Griswold and Eisenstadt decisions on contraception, all about sex. Following that came a decision to the Fanny Hill case, which opened the door to pornography. It was an obscenity case. Following that, of course, was Roe v. Wade. Following that were a couple of cases on constitutionalizing sodomy. And following that was Obergefell and same-sex marriage. And all of those things cascaded through the federal government, through the Department of Justice, through the Department of Education, on down to the little grade school a mile from where I sit, where they teach children a new religious dogma that sex is assigned at birth, and that boys can become girls. So I say that we live under a new established church, and this is something, and this is truly what we're up against. I argue in the book that it's far darker than people actually know. How's that for pessimism?
That's great. That's wonderful. We have about 2.5 minutes left in the interview with Austin Ruse, and I was wondering. So we kind of got the view of where we're at now. Now, religion is upstream of culture and politics. So what can we do as Catholics today? You said the book is titled "Getting in the Fight." So how are we going to get in the fight, and what are we doing?
Well, in my own work at the United Nations, I call what I do at the United Nations, an aspect of it is what I call the true ecumenism. People of strong faith putting aside their theological and ecclesiological differences and working on common projects. So I work with Muslims, I work with Mormons, I work with evangelicals. And what happens over time is friendships are formed, love grows, you actually start debating your faith. It's kind of fun. And quite honestly, conversions happen. People are attracted, and this is all political, but people are attracted to the magisterium. That is to say, this rock that won't change with the times or with fashion. And it's not something that somebody has to decide on their own by going through the Bible. So this is political activity that leads to evangelization. I think that, people have to share the gospel with their family and friends. Your family and friends have to know that you're a Christian, that you're a believing Christian, and that it matters to you, and that you behave that way. And all of this, is attractive to people when they're considering where they are at in terms of religion. But I also say that people have to be involved in some way. I charge the sniper's nest, and not everybody can. But people can write letters to the editor. They can write a check to you guys. They can write a check to me. They can write a check to the local pro-life group. Everybody has to play some kind of role.
Amen. Amen. Praise be to God. Austin Ruse, president of CFAM. God love you and God bless you. Thank you for being on today and talking about your book, Under Siege. No finer time to be a faithful Catholic. God love you and have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Praise be to God. That is going to do it for hour number 1 of Catholic Drive Time. We're very grateful to you. We'll post that interview later today on our YouTube, Facebook, and elsewhere. But join us in the second hour, if possible. The game show is going to come up, and we're going to have prizes at stake. You could win. All you got to do is be part of the program. grnonline.com/CDT for the links. God love you. God bless you. We'll see you back here with Bishop Athanasius Schneider tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us on Your Catholic Drive Time, where it is our pleasure to keep you informed and inspired.
Join us Monday through Friday at the same time, right here on your favorite Catholic radio station.
Don't forget to connect with us. Just go to facebook.com/Catholic Drive Time.
Again, that's facebook.com/Catholic Drive Time.
Be sure to share more than just us today. Share Jesus with everyone you meet.
Bye now, and God love you.